Imagine standing on a beach more than 600 years ago. The sea is calm, the sky is clear, then suddenly the horizon begins to disappear. Not because of a storm, not because of fog, but because hundreds of enormous ships are approaching. Ships so large that they look like floating fortresses. Ships carrying thousands of soldiers, horses, treasures, diplomats, and weapons. At the center sails a vessel so massive that many people believe it should not even be possible to float. A ship larger than anything Europe had ever built. A ship belonging to the mighty Ming dynasty of China. And leading this incredible fleet was a man whose life story sounds almost unbelievable. A kidnapped child, a palace servant, a eunuch, yet one of the greatest admirals in human history. This is the story of Zheng He and China's forgotten floating empire. The story begins in the late 1300s. At that time, China was going through one of the most dramatic transformations in its history. The Mongol-led Yuan dynasty was collapsing. A new power was rising. Far away in China's southwestern province of Yunnan lived a young boy named Ma He. His family served under the Mongol administration. But when Ming armies invaded the region, everything changed. His father was killed, his home was destroyed, and the young boy was captured. What happened next would shape the future of world history. He was taken to the imperial court and made a eunuch, a cruel practice that permanently changed his life. Most boys in his situation disappeared into obscurity. But he was different. He was intelligent, fearless, and unusually tall. As he grew older, he gained the trust of a powerful prince named Zheng He, a relationship that would eventually change both their destinies. Years passed. China became increasingly unstable. Political rivalries threatened the empire. Eventually, Zheng He launched a civil war against his own nephew. The conflict was brutal, but Zheng He emerged victorious. He seized the throne and became the Yongle Emperor. Now ruler of the most powerful nation in Asia, the emperor had a vision. He wanted the world to know the strength of Ming China, not through words but through spectacle, through power, through ships unlike anything the world had ever seen. For this mission, he chose his most trusted servant, Ma He. The emperor gave him a new name, Zheng He, and with that, a legend was born. The emperor ordered the construction of an enormous fleet. Thousands of craftsmen worked day and night. Forests were cut down, shipyards expanded, resources poured in from across the empire. The result was astonishing. The fleet included treasure ships, warships, supply vessels, horse transports, patrol boats, and support ships. Together, they formed what many historians consider the largest naval expedition force of the pre-modern world. According to historical records, some of the famous treasure ships may have reached lengths of over 400 feet. Whether those measurements were completely accurate remains debated today, but there is no doubt that these vessels were enormous. They carried silk, porcelain, gold, silver, luxury goods, food supplies, weapons, and thousands of people. Each voyage looked less like a naval expedition and more like a floating city crossing the ocean. In 1405, the fleet finally set sail. Nearly 300 ships, more than 27,000 men. An expedition unlike anything seen before. The fleet traveled across Southeast Asia, through modern-day Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and beyond. Wherever Zheng He arrived, local rulers were amazed. Many had never witnessed such power. The ships towered above local vessels. The fleet carried gifts, diplomats, translators, and soldiers. Its purpose was not simply conquest, it was diplomacy backed by overwhelming strength. Many kingdoms willingly established relations with China. Others offered tribute, and some quickly realized resistance would be a terrible mistake. Zheng He's voyages continued. Again and again, his fleet crossed the Indian Ocean. He visited India, Sri Lanka, Persia, Arabia, and East Africa. Along the way, he fought pirates, protected trade routes, and expanded Chinese influence across vast distances. In Sri Lanka, conflict erupted with local rulers. Zheng He defeated them and brought captives back to China. Meanwhile, merchants and diplomats followed in his wake. Trade flourished, ideas spread, cultures connected. For a brief moment in history, the Indian Ocean became the stage for China's greatest display of maritime power. One of the most famous moments came during Zheng He's journeys to Africa. From the coast of present-day Kenya, exotic animals were brought back to China. Among them was a giraffe. To many Chinese observers, the animal seemed almost mythical. Some believed it resembled a legendary creature known as the Qilin. The emperor was delighted. It became a symbol of the extraordinary reach of Zheng He's voyages, yet even the greatest achievements can disappear. Inside China, many officials questioned the value of these expensive expeditions. The voyages cost enormous amounts of money. Some scholars argued that resources should be spent defending China's borders rather than exploring distant seas. Then came political changes. The Yongle emperor died. New rulers took power. Their priorities were different. Support for the voyages began to fade. Shipbuilding programs were reduced. Funding disappeared. And eventually the expeditions ended. The mighty fleet that had once dominated the oceans was abandoned. Many ships were dismantled, others rotted away. Within a generation, China's greatest maritime project had become a memory. But one mystery remains. Were Zheng He's treasure ships truly as gigantic as historical records claim? Some historians believe the reported sizes were exaggerated. Others point to archaeological discoveries made near ancient shipyards in Nanjing. The debate continues even today. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. What cannot be denied is the scale of Zheng He's achievements. A boy captured in war, a servant of the palace, a man who was never expected to hold power, yet he commanded a fleet that sailed farther and larger than almost anyone of his age. His empire vanished, his ships disappeared, but his legend survived. And centuries later, the story of China's floating empire still captures the imagination of the world, because sometimes the greatest wonders in history are not the ones that remain. They are the ones that vanished without a trace. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more incredible stories from the forgotten chapters of our world. This is World Archives, and we'll see you in the next story.